Hello and welcome to the Haxton Knits channel. My name is Deanna. I am a master knitter living in Okinawa, Japan, and it has been quite a bit longer than I intended it to be between videos. The reason for that is that my work life has absolutely exploded. My day job, the one that pays all the bills, has been super busy, super just turbulent. I've had the kind of days where I just ride home in absolute silence. I turn my radio off. When I get home, I don't play with my phone or do anything. I just sit on the couch and veg. And as a result, the knitting, I just haven't been inspired to cast on a lot of things. So I took a little break. I hope you guys had a happy holiday. I do, however, have a whole bunch of acquisitions. So here in Okinawa, the mail's a little slow and all of my Black Friday stuff has just recently come in, and I have been whittling away at all of the languishing whips from 2021. So I think I have all of them done except maybe one, and I'm excited to show them to you. So let's get started. So with a long break, I have tons of whips to show you. I'm very excited. There has been a fair amount of knitting done. I think the first one that you're going to see right away is what I'm actually wearing. This is, of course, the Nordiska sweater by Kaitlin Hunter, and I am excited. Let me see if I can show you a little bit of this. A little bit. There you go. So I'll tell you all about these color choices in a minute, but as you can see, the bottom contrast colors are different from the ones from my sleeves. And of course, the reason for that is I knit the whole thing in stash yarn, which I'm very excited about. I talked about that a few episodes ago. There was some drinking involved, and I was going to just do some splurgy orders of yarn to knit this, and my husband challenged me to knit it from my own stash, and lo and behold, I had enough yarn to knit it from my own stash. So very exciting. This is, of course, a very cropped sweater. I don't know if you could tell that when I stood up, but it's a very short sweater, which is kind of limiting in what options I have. In the project photo, it's paired with a linen dress. So I have been, kind of shuffling through all my dresses and trying to find an appropriate pairing for this. I think if I had more yarn and I wasn't just doing stash yarn, I would probably reknit this and do it a lot longer and a little bit looser and with a little bit more ease. But as it is finished and it fits and it's comfortable, and that's really what's important, isn't it? Let me talk about the yarn. So this main color yarn, this is the Mominoki yarn that I got originally as part of the Amirisu Yarn Club, and then I bought another skein of it when I was up in Tokyo shopping at the Walnut shop. Very exciting. It is a little rustic. It's not scratchy, but it's a little bit more rustic. If you're a person who really doesn't tolerate wool, probably not next to the skin soft. But for me, I think I'm kind of middle ground. There are some yarns that some people say are okay to wear close to their skin that really bother me, but this one is doing okay. I think, like I said, I think I'm pretty middle ground. I'm not like one of those like die hard, I love the wool, or even the rustic kind of scratchy wool kind of people. I'm rambling a little bit. So this color is cinnamon, and the contrast colors. So I did the main contrast colors on the body first. Oh, here we go. I can hold it up for you. This is very ladylike of me. This section here, the blue and the white yarns, this is a Plymouth yarn. It's called Ink and Spice, and it is just like a luscious blend. I'm trying to remember everything in it. I think it's like yak and silk and alpaca and wool, something along those lines. I will put it in here so you know exactly the fiber content of it, but it is a single ply and it's just soft as can be. So it's a little bit contrasty to the main yarn in this project, and it's a little bit fuzzier too. But I really, really love the color contrast. We got some good color theory here with orange and blue being opposites on the color wheel. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough of that yarn left over in my stash. I actually used that yarn to knit 2 hats, and so it was really just a little portion of a ball of yarn that I had left. So I did use a different color. So this gray is actually the Mominoki yarn also. So the Mominoki, oh, is it Fin wool? Again, I'll put that in the down bar. And the contrast is a little bit less. It's actually showing up really nicely here on this screen. I'm looking past you guys at my screen. Yeah, so it turned out really well. Again, I kind of wish I had more of the blue for this section. I have some new ink, guys. Here you go. You can check out the rarely seen Haxton Knits Shisa Dog tattoos. Okay, sorry, rambling. Let's get back on track. I did finish the giant black blanket. That's not where you thought I was going with that, is it? Okay, so this blanket is very, very tricky to show you on camera. So I went outside and had a little photo shoot with this with the cats. And as you can see from the pictures, I have not blocked this yet. It's just going to be for my own personal use. So I'm going to use this blanket until it's ready to be washed, and then I'll give it a wash and a block. And there is nothing special going on here. This is 3 skeins of Heartland yarn held together, knit on giant needles. I can't remember whether, I think it was size 14 or 17. And I literally just cast on and knit until I ran out of yarn. And I have, in fact, been sleeping under this. It's been nice and cold here in Okinawa. It is winter time now. And so we've had lots and lots of snuggles under the couch. Surprisingly, the cats have not destroyed it yet. Typically, the cats' claws get caught in things like this, and I really worried with it being a 3-strand held together that we were going to get lots of little picks. But so far, the ones that have happened have been pretty easy to just sort of work their way back in, which I am very, very excited about. Okay. Speaking of cats, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's just like the sound of thundering little cat claws as they run down the stairs in my home tonight. It is the middle of the night. I am back on night shift, and I'm so excited to be back here talking to all of you. So I hope you can feel my excitement here. I do feel a little bit disorganized, but what are you gonna do? Here is a long lost whip that I bet some of you have forgotten I even started. Let's see. There we go. Oh yeah, so this is Waiting for Rain, and it is a shawl that is knit with short rows of lace wedged into sections of garter stitch, which is so cool and so exciting. I did knit this in Wallin yarn. Let's see if I can remember. It's been a while here. The yarn, so the white or off-white color is Solstice, and the pink color I think is called Fairy Hair, and I can't exactly remember which yarn bases I have. I will put them in. One of them was the cashmere base, Nouveau maybe. You know what? I'm not even going to guess. I'm just going to put them down below for you to see. I did use 1 skein of each, and I completed the pattern, but I don't know. Okay, so if you've seen the pattern picture for this pattern, I'll try to pop it up here. The pattern makes this shawl look giant. I don't know if they used a very, very small model or if they didn't follow the pattern or made it bigger, but for me, it's not giant. When I put it around myself, it is more of a scarf than a shawl to me. It is certainly not doing that like giant picturesque flow that the model does. Let me see here. Okay, I've got a cropped sweater on, which is kind of fooling the eye a little bit here, but it is not the biggest shawl that I own. And of course, most of it is tapered thinner, 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 thinner. So to me, it comes off a little bit more like a scarf than a shawl. I did have to rework this bottom edge a few times. So if you have not purchased this pattern, it comes with a couple of different instructions. The original pattern does not have this sort of fancy scalloped edge on it. And it doesn't have alternate colors. It's all knit in one single color. So it comes with the pattern a PDF file that you can follow along that gives you suggestions on how you can also knit with these different color stripes. I did follow another user's guidelines on Ravelry to sort of make these color transitions happen. What was that? It did turn out stunning though. So this is finally done. It's actually been done for quite a long time. I had a hard time with this bottom border. So the original pattern, it doesn't come with this border, but it does come with a supplementary PDF that gives you suggestions. For example, the original pattern is only one color, so it gives you suggestions on how to add in contrast colors and this particular border, which I like a lot. The border ended up taking a lot more yarn than I expected. I was working with just 2 skeins of yarn. I didn't have a backup. And so what I decided I was going to do was I would knit all the way until I ran out of yarn, and then I would pull out a couple of rows and knit this border. And I thought for sure 3 rows would be fine. So I pulled out 3 rows, started knitting, ran out of yarn. I was like, okay, all right. So I pulled back the entire border. I had gotten almost to like the end. I think I only had maybe this much left. And pulled out the whole thing and pulled out a couple more rows and knitted again and ran out again. So I don't know how many rows of knitting it takes to do this particular border, but it was more than 6. And I don't remember what happened. I put it on hold for a while, and then I came back, and then I think my cat chewed on some of the yarn. And so as a result, this picot border on the edge is actually the 2 different colors. So this section here is that sort of off-white color, and then when I ran out, I transitioned to this pink color. And I don't think you can tell at all when it's wrapped up on you. Nobody's going to be really paying close enough attention to see, oh yeah, those borders are 2 different colors. So all done. I think I did originally promise you guys that I was going to make you a video on how to block irregular shaped things, and then I just decided not to. So hopefully you'll forgive me. But basically, when it came time to block this, I didn't want to make this really technical tutorial on like step by step how to block things, because there are so many good tutorials out there already. But I also think that sometimes things just get a little bit too technical. I remember when I first started knitting, feeling like blocking was this like really delicate thing and I was gonna mess something up and like I wouldn't block things, or feeling like it was really hard. I would watch tutorials and it was like steps and steps and steps. And here's the truth. If you are not submitting this into a competition or trying to win a prize, you don't need to block things quite so delicately. Your non-knitting friends, they're not really going to know whether you did a perfect blocking job or not. And for this one, you know, I could have laid it all out and pinned it all out and maybe gotten like some twine or blocking wires and blocked all of these points out. But I didn't have that energy. I was feeling overwhelmed and tired with work. And I said, you know what, screw it. No, you don't need to block all fancy every single time. So this is what I did. I soaked it in warm water, I squeezed out the water, and I chucked it over a railing and let gravity do the blocking for me. That's all I did. This pattern does have a very tight edge, so the increase edge is very tight and it causes a curl, which is actually meant to be in the pattern. So if you see the project picture, it's in there, meant to be there. The pattern instructions do give you some instructions on how to loosen up that edge so it's not so tight, and I kind of wish I had done that all the way through. I did it on the ends here, and you can kind of tell it's maybe not as tightly spiraled as the rest of it. But all in all, the pattern is done. I have to admit, I don't really wear shawls all that much, especially really, really lacy, delicate pink ones. This just kind of isn't in my color palette and aesthetic. So I'm not sure what's going to come of this. It may become a gift for my mom or for a friend. I've been kind of toying with the idea of doing a little pop-up shop and selling some things here in Okinawa, especially now that the weather's really cold. So we shall see what this will become, but I'm excited to share it with you, excited that it's finally off the needles. That's some real talk about blocking right there, is like, yes, blocking is great. Yes, I recommend blocking. Yes, I block pretty much everything that I knit. But you don't have to be so gentle. You don't have to be so precious about it. It's okay. Like, soak it in water, chuck it over a railing. Yes, it's going to stretch it a little bit, and in some cases that's appropriate. So lace patterns want to be stretched and opened, and that's what worked with me. And yeah, let's move on. This is another whip that you may have forgotten about, but I have been working on for a hot minute now. This is the Highway hat, and it is a 2-color brioche hat with this lovely little highway of color running spiral through it. And this yarn came from Tokyo, so I'll put in a link here of all of my Tokyo yarn shopping adventures. But if you remember, this is the yarn that was made out of 100% recycled wool. So it was very exciting. It came from Puppy. The yarn shop is called Puppy, and it was called, what was it called? Linkata number 5, something along those lines. I will put it here in the down bar for you. But this hat turned out really well. It fits well. Contemplating sending it to a family member as a gift. Let's see. There we go. I had a really hard time deciding what colors to use. I think I originally cast on with this brim in the white, and then the colors reversed. So I had the white with a blue highway running through it, and then didn't like that. I got frustrated. I pulled it apart. I pulled it out. I reknit it, and when I reknit it, I forgot to cast on with the smaller size needles. It was too big, so then I pulled it apart again. There's been a lot of that lately. A lot of cast on and frog and knit and frog and so on and so forth. But this one is finally done. I really like it a lot. I really kind of want to send it to my dad because I've heard that he was having kind of a hard time over the holidays. So we'll see. Maybe this will go to him. I'm a little worried it won't fit him because it fits me really, really well. So maybe not this one. Maybe this one. I've been kind of on a hat knitting spree here, which I'm very excited about. Okay, this hat. I'm going to pull up the pattern name for you guys because I am sure to mispronounce it. It looks like it's pronounced Musselburgh. Or Musselburgh. This is what is it, German? I don't know. This is going to test my pronunciation skills, but this is by Ysolda Teague. So yes, this pattern is by Ysolda Teague, and I saw this pattern featured over on the Woolly Thistle YouTube channel, and what really, really caught my attention was its construction. So this is a double thick hat that you knit as one tube. So you like start on one end, increase up, knit the whole hat, decrease down, and then you shove the inside back into itself to make this nice, really thick, double thick hat. And then you of course fold the brim up too, so that you have like a really thick, nice hat. And I'm in love with it. It's very soft, very comfortable, but I think this one is a little bit too big for me. So this one might be the one that goes to my dad. And I actually really, really like this yarn. So this yarn is another Japanese yarn. I bought it at Pandora House, which is a big box store, and it is an alpaca blend. Yes, so this one is called Rauma Airy Wool Alpaca. And I originally picked up this yarn because I saw the balls sitting all next to each other, and I just thought the color palette was really nice. So I had no idea what I was going to make with it, but it's so nice. It's very, very soft. I think if I knit this hat again, which I'm probably going to do, I might go down a needle size on the center section. So I would knit on it all the way to about here, and then knit the center section maybe with a smaller needle size, and that way the brim of the hat would fit really nice and snugly, because as it is now it's a little bit loose for my head. And again, this might just be because it's a little bit big for me. If you haven't heard of this pattern, man, I overlooked this pattern several times. I remember actually seeing it and just being like, it's a hat. It looks very much like a plain hat. You can't tell from the pattern that it's this tucked in hat. And you also can't tell that it is written for several sizes and several weights of yarn. So it literally has you just grab a needle that you think is appropriate for the yarn you have and cast on and knit until you can get a gauge swatch. So basically you work all these increases, and once you have enough of an increase to measure a rough gauge swatch, then you start following the pattern for the size that you want. So that's really clever. It just makes it so easy because, you know, you do need hats to fit a certain way, but maybe not as closely as some other things. So you can do kind of a rough swatch. And I really liked that about this hat. So we'll see what's going to happen with this one too. It's just a really soft, really snuggly and warm hat that I like a lot. I kind of like it without folding it back and then making it a little bit slouchy. I feel like I have a lot of show and tell in this episode, so hopefully you guys are bearing with me. Let's spend a moment and share some of those master knitter knowledges. We're talking about color stripes. So as you know, when you knit in the round, you do not knit perfectly flat rows, you actually knit spirals. And as a result, where color changes happen, you can see them. So let's show you. There you go, you can see that pretty well right there. So that is where the color break happened. And there are a lot of different ways to hide that color break. So what I just showed you there is what it looks like when you do nothing to hide the color break. And then I want to show you here is where I did a technique, same thing. So all of these rows, I kind of did one of the techniques to hide, and all of these rows I didn't. And as you can see, it's not perfect. So here you can see this just sort of warping, but in these sections, what I did was the first row after you change the new color. So essentially the second row of a new color, you slip the first stitch of the row, and you do that to hide kind of like mosaic stitching, where you're going to pull up a little bit the stitch below and it kind of hides that jog. Is it perfect? No. I have seen people do it pretty darn perfectly. When you're done, you can kind of get in there, and when you sew in the ends, kind of fudge the tension a little bit to make it really nicely line up. But I did decide to just do one section with it, one section without it, so that hopefully you could see. So this is the section where I did that technique. And, oh, there we go. This is the section where I didn't do it. So you can just see that jog quite a bit more clearly there. Okay, do I have anything more? No more show and tells? I don't think I have any more whips in progress. Oh, no, finished objects. That was all the finished objects. That was a lot, wasn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 finished objects since I spoke to you guys last. Let's move on to works in progress. So my neat little display of yarn here just got away from me a little bit as I picked this up. But I mentioned that I had done some shopping during Black Friday and all of the sales, and it had all come in, and here is my Woolly Thistle purchases. So if you follow the Woolly Thistle YouTube channel, which I highly recommend because they talk all about what's in the shop and give away gift cards, they had selection boxes for the holidays, and I didn't want to buy the whole box. I find that a lot of times those boxes come with lots of little extras that I don't think I'm going to use, but I did sort of put together a mini version of their selection box for myself. So I bought some of the yarns that came in the selection box, and I didn't buy some of the other things like the pins that I didn't want. So let me show you those yarns now. I think all of these were from the selection box. So first, what I'm most excited about, this is the Marie Wallin's British Breeds, and I have never had the opportunity to touch these yarns before. I'm very excited about them. I really thought, okay, so when you look at them on the internet, they look like they're a similar shape as the Jameson and Smith Shetland Spindrift. And I kind of thought that's what I was getting. So I was actually really surprised. These are a lot bigger than those skeins of yarn, even though I think they're the same weight. I don't know if, actually, let me show you. Let's grab some. So Okay, so this is a skein of Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift. And every time I've looked at the Marie Wallin yarn, I thought that what I was getting was pretty much identical to that. But as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger. They are both 25 grams. So I don't know, and they look to be about the same weight. So I don't know if this is just more tightly compacted down. But I was pleasantly surprised when I felt these because these are nice and soft. I would say these are softer than the Mominoki yarn that I was talking about. And I was really just expecting this exact yarn in a new format from a new person. But no, pleasantly surprised. So I did buy 3 skeins of this with some ideas in mind. So what are these? Let's share. This one is quince. This one is woad, and this one is chestnut. And they're very bright. They are coming out a little bit more primary color on my screen right now than they are in real life. This is more like a flax color than the kind of bright yellow that's showing up. And my plan is to actually make a cowl with them. I bought a skein of some contrast yarn to go with it. This is the Biches Bûches cashmere and lamb's wool. And I'm very excited to work with all of these yarns. I'm hopeful that this cashmere, I think this cashmere, it's very soft, but if I know cashmere, which I think I do, the more you handle it and work it, kind of the fluffier and softer it gets. And I bet that is what's going to happen with this when I start handling it and knitting with it. It's definitely soft. You can tell that there's the wool content in it because it's got the bounce that sometimes cashmere is missing. And I am very excited for future projects with this. I talked a little bit on one of my prior episodes about what I think I'm going to do with them. I also bought, oh my gosh, this is very much show and tell this week. So what did I get? I went ahead and I bought myself a pattern kit. This is Lily's Everyday Jacket by Rauma. And Rauma, is that the right way to say it? You guys tell me. I've actually never touched any of these Rauma yarns ever. I don't know, wherever I've been just hasn't had them. I always expected they were going to be itchier than they are, and they're not. They're all super soft and nice. So continuing with my self-made kit, I also bought these 2 balls of yarn. Again, the color is not turning out quite right here. They look very purple on my camera right now, but these are much more blue, like a blue jean or a blue denim. This is the Rauma Finull, and this is Plum, which is a kid mohair and polyamide blend. And of course, these are meant to be held together. So I haven't quite decided what sort of project I'm going to make with these yet. I'm thinking another hat. It's been hat knitting season here. Maybe can you suggest to me a pattern if you know one down below? I'm excited. I feel like I'm very late to get on this fuzzy yarn held alongside another yarn train, and I am here for it. It is time. So this one, no plans for it yet. Probably going to be another hat. I think I'm going to set up a shop and sell some hats because it's been hat knitting season all the time. So that was the yarn I bought to make myself sort of that pseudo kit without all the extra stuff in it. And I bought that just before Thanksgiving. And then on Thanksgiving, with all the Black Friday sales, I went back in and I bought another order of stuff because I just really liked some of the things they had for sale. And what I bought for myself was a kit. So this is a kit for the Rauma Lily's Everyday Jacket, which is just a nice, easy cardigan. I've been sort of craving a cardigan here. I'll talk a little bit more about this pattern for a second. Let me show you everything that came with the kit. So the kit came with the yarn, which this is, again, this is the Rauma Alpakka Lin. So it's an alpaca and linen and wool blend. And this color is looking much closer. This one is kind of a gray-blue color. And it is actually really fun to work with. I thought it was going to be a little tricky, but kit came with the yarn, the pattern, and it also came with the woolly thistle bag. I don't know if you know this, but my husband's family is Scottish. Maybe the Haxton name gave it away, but we have some Scottish heritage in our family. We wore kilts. My husband wore his kilt for our wedding. And so I just love the thistle. I feel like the thistle is such an iconic Scottish image. And so to have that with the ball of yarn just kind of really tickled me and made me happy. I did add on some buttons. So let me get in here. Buttons, come out. Oh yeah, you're not going to be able to see these, but these buttons are little bumblebees, and they're absolutely adorable. I have 2 packs of them for this sweater. And then what I ended up doing was buying some little kind of like hook and eyelet closures. So one of my least favorite things about cardigans is when you have the buttons and the buttons pull and you get kind of like gapping in between the buttons, or the buttons just don't hold shut very well. So what I think I'm going to do is actually put these little buttons on the front as pseudo buttons, and underneath them put these little hook and eyelet closures. And I'm doing that just because this light yarn is so lightweight that I'm worried, I don't know, I was worried about buttonholes and the weights of the buttons. It's kind of an experiment, so I'll let you guys know how that goes when I get to that point. Or if I just say and make some buttonholes and put the buttons in like a normal person. The other thing, okay, I have seen everybody advertising this lately. This is the Knitting Barber. I don't know if you guys have seen these or not already. I kind of feel silly because every YouTube channel is talking about this right now. But this is just a little bit of cord. I don't know what this cord is made of. I bet somebody knows, but it's a sort of elastic cord with a hole in the end, and it is such a game changer. The intention is that you actually just stick your knitting needle onto the end of this. Let me see if I can grab you one. So imagine you have all your knitting on your knitting needles and you need to try it on. Well, you just insert the knitting needle right into the little tip of this and slide your stitches off, and it makes it super duper easy to transfer stitches onto waist cables and to just transfer it so that you can try it on. And then when you're done, you just stick the end back on and slide all your stitches back on. And it's so easy. All the time I have spent feeding yarn in. Actually, here's my secret, is that when I try things on, I don't even put it on waist yarn. I just pull it off the needle, try it on, and then pick up all the stitches again. And most of the time it takes less time than stringing on some waist yarn and like picking all of the stitches onto a needle with some waist yarn. This game changer, total game changer. The kit comes with 2 short and 1 long cables, which is genius because most sweaters you'll have 2 armholes. So this is the length for the armholes. And then you'll have an even longer one, which you can use for the bottom of it so that you can try it on. I mean, I'm impressed. I don't know. This is like one of those like stupid little things that is really very, very helpful. And now I want to buy like 25 more of these. I can't help but think that somebody out here knows exactly what these are and that I could probably go to a hardware store or something like that and buy some more of them. It does come in all sorts of fun colors, but they sold out super duper fast. And when I got online, only the brown ones were left, which is fine by me. I'm not particular to what color they are, but they do come in like neon, electric, pink, yellow, green, orange, red, and all of those things. So that is, I think, all of the acquisitions. I am going to talk very briefly about this pattern. I don't usually like to say overly negative things about patterns or things that people are selling because I understand they're making a living off of them. But I was pretty disappointed with this pattern, and I think it's just because it was translated. So it's not originally written in English. And just something in the way that it is written, it doesn't follow kind of standard formatting that you would be used to as like an American knitter or an English speaking knitter. And there were some typos and things like that. So I have been able to make it work and kind of push through. But just a word of caution, if you are a brand new knitter, this pattern may be a little bit tricky. You may have to phone a friend and ask them to help you with it. And then I did do something kind of stupid. So this pattern, it recommends this yarn, right? And then it also says you can substitute the Rauma Plum, which I just showed you. And it says Rauma Plum held double or Rauma Alpakka Silk Rauma held double. And those two lines, they're like side by side. Yarn, Alpakka Lin, or yarn, Plum held double, Alpakka Silk held double. My brain didn't get that. My brain just got hold double. And like I said, so many patterns nowadays, you're holding one of these yarns with another one, that I just went straight to hold double and cast on and started knitting. I was like, oh, I'll just check my gauge once I get a little bit knitting done. And I'm checking my gauge and I'm like, man, I'm really, really, really off. Yeah, because my dumb self, you're not supposed to hold it double. You're not, it's supposed to just be one strand. So I am very slowly ripping this back. It is a bit of a chore with fuzzy yarn, so I do a row or two at a time. But in the meantime, I have cast on the way it's supposed to be cast on and started knitting with another ball of yarn. So it is a very, very, very lightweight sweater. However, even with actually knitting it with the correct number of strands, I had to go down. So the gauge is 22 stitches per 4 inches, and the pattern calls for a US size 7 needle. And I am on a US size 3 needle, and I would still have to go down to make gauge. So I instead just did some sweater math, and I'm doing a slightly smaller size than I would have been doing. So I'm not sure what's up with that. The gauge was very, very, very different than the needle size that was suggested. Okay, I think that's it. I think that is all the fluff. That is all the knitting. I can tell that I am disorganized today, and I hope you guys are okay with that. That's what you get when you take a long break, right? You feel like you forget how to do all the things. But okay, I have one more whip for you I almost forgot about. I have cast on some socks. It's been a while since I've knit socks. I think I did all of the sock madness knitting the last couple of years and kind of burned out my sock knitting mojo. But with the cold weather seeping in, I have been wearing some of my hand knit socks more and just remembering how much I love them. And one of my favorite pairs of socks was knit with the Regia Perfect sock. I don't know if you, I think most of you know this. Oh, sorry. My mom is sending me messages today. Most of you probably know this. I only saw this particular sock yarn when I was traveling in Germany. So in the US, I hadn't seen it around, but I'm sure it is around and available. But this type of yarn is designed so that you can knit a perfect pair of matching socks. And it comes with a yellow marker string marking where the start of a new sock is. And you cast on, so you'll actually discard the yellow one and cast on using the next color. And it gives you instructions on the back side to knit to a certain point and then work your heel. And then that way you will have perfectly lined up matching socks. So I have cast on for this particular one. I'm using the stitch counts from the Hermione's Everyday Socks. And I'm not doing the pattern itself. I'm just doing a 3x1 rib. But I liked the way that pair of socks fit. And so I'm using it as a guideline. I don't know if you just saw my cat just like dive bomb into my lap here. But here is Siri. This is Princess Cyrilla here. But I just kind of went on a shopping kick. And I bought several sets of this yarn. I bought a rainbow one, which has yet to arrive, and this sort of pink and purple tonal stripes. And I have been very much enjoying casting these on. I think I'm watching my cat slowly destroy my camera here. If you guys remember from one of my past episodes, I did a pair of socks from an 1800s knitting book, and that was this one here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to adopt a little bit of the shaping that was in this pattern. And I don't know if you can see it here, but one of the things that was in that particular pattern that wasn't in kind of more modern knitting was this decrease that's done right after you complete the heel. So if you're doing a heel flapping gusset, oh my gosh, my cat's trying to run away with my yarn. If you do a heel flap and gusset, typically you knit the flap, you turn the heel, you pick up, and you decrease down. And on this one, right about the point you have finished picking up before you have all the way decreased down, they actually threw in a couple of decreases just to kind of cup in your heel. And I think I'm going to try to adopt that into this pattern and kind of see if I can make myself a pair of socks that fit really, really well. I'm excited about it. When you do the Sock Madness knitting, you have to knit socks like the size and specifications of the competition, and as a result I actually have quite a few pairs of socks that don't fit me very well. So I've been kind of in this mood to sort of really hone in and make myself a pair of socks that fit really, really well and sort of like create that pattern and stick to it. So that's what's going on here. I have like 3 more balls of this yarn in different colorways for me to play with and really perfect those patterns. If you want to know more about this 1800 sock and you didn't catch that episode, I'll put a link above or wherever the link ends up, so you can see all the details and how to access these old pattern books that are available for free online. That is it for my whips. No more whips. I'm going to put this away. I will be impressed if I get through this episode without this little monster here running off with a ball of yarn, because that is her number one MO. But let's move on to life in Okinawa. So last time I saw you was Thanksgiving. It has been a long time, I guess, so you missed all of the Christmas and all of the New Year's excitement. Something that I try to do every year is I volunteer to work the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day shifts at work. And I do that in the hopes that my coworkers who have young children and new families can really spend that time together and hopefully be off work. The nature of my day job is that our business never shuts down. So somebody has to work, and I always volunteer for that. So I did work Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, and it was very busy. And it was not the relaxing Christmas I normally have. I think even when I work Christmas, typically it's a little bit of a slower time of year for us, and everyone brings cookies and snacks and potluck. And we did the same this year, but it wasn't quite as relaxing as I was hoping for. However, I was off with my husband a couple of days later, and we decided to go out, which is not something we've done for a while. And at that time, Okinawa was still pretty low. We had lifted all of our coronavirus restrictions. We were allowed to go out without masks again. So we decided to go to an izakaya in my neighborhood, and it's our absolute favorite because it has closed-in booths. You go into your own booth and they shut the door. And the introvert in me loves it, because I can just relax. I actually bring my knitting, we have drinks, and we talk, and we hang out, and we relax and eat really good food. And so I'll show a couple of videos of this place. It's really a cute place and just my favorite spot on island. I do suppose that in the age of pandemic, as we're coming out of this, it's a pretty safe option because you're all closed in your own booth. But that was really it. We did a very low-key, chilled, relaxed Christmas a couple of days after Christmas. Here in Okinawa, New Year's is a big time for going to visit the temple and the shrine in your neighborhood and sort of getting your fortune and blessing for the new year. And in our neighborhood, there is sort of a larger shrine. And every New Year's, I wake up to this line of people just kind of in front of my driveway. And it's wrapping around the block of people waiting to get into the shrine. The first year it happened, I was totally dumbfounded. I couldn't understand what all the cars and all the people were for. And then I finally followed them all the way around the block and found that it was people lined up to visit the shrine on the New Year's Day. Most people don't go out on New Year's Eve, which I thought was totally shocking. Our first New Year's Eve here, let me see if I can find it, but there's a picture of me a little bit drunk on New Year's Eve. We were pretty much alone in a bar because there was nobody out, and I was eating lots of good food and takoyaki and things like that, and wondering why our neighborhood watering holes were all so empty. And then the next day we woke up to that giant line, and I went, oh, okay, so it's different. It's not the US, obviously. So different traditions. We did not go in to visit the shrine. There was a long line again. We decided, again, just to relax, nothing special, nothing exciting. A couple of new restaurants had opened in our neighborhood since all of the pandemic excitement happened, and we visited them. And not too long after that, Okinawa sort of got hit with the Omicron variant of COVID, and now everything is back on the lockdown. Yes, dear? Oh, come on. Okay. So yes, if you watch the news, Okinawa, Japan, I think Tokyo is reporting 10,000 new cases a day. I will say that where I work, I'm seeing the highest number of people with positive COVID tests that I have seen for the entire pandemic, but people aren't sick. Thankfully, we have a lot of vaccinated people here. Our population is very much vaccinated, and we're seeing very, very mild cases or no symptoms. A couple of people I know, somebody around them tested positive, so they screened them, and then they tested positive, but they were completely asymptomatic. But as a result, I've gotten tested twice this week because just people around me are starting to show up positive. So I'm doing my best now to rein it all back in. We are no longer going out again. And it works out okay because I'm on night shift, so there's nowhere to go anyway. Oh, I've got the fluffs. All of the fluffy yarns are slowly getting to me here today. But I think that's it. I don't have any more updates for you. I've been thinking about continuing my favorite knitting pattern series. And something I noticed, I was doing them by category, like my favorite pullover, my favorite cowl, my favorite hat. I don't have a single scarf saved in my favorites, not even one. And it's weird because scarves are such a beginner-friendly pattern. So I thought it's time for me to spend some time on Ravelry digging through the scarf patterns and finding my favorite scarves so I can make that very beginner-friendly episode talking about the awesomeness that is scarves, because I know as a beginner that was my first project, so that's what's been kind of going on in my mind. And I hope that all of you guys had a happy and healthy holiday season. I hope you don't mind the little bit of a ramble I did this week, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.